Hi you all, it's Speedy or Paige again, and oh my golly, it's time to really dig into the latest episode of Inanimate Insanity 2. No, this will be a 3-part miniseries for this episode, because I will be exploring a lot of details that were given, and there are many major plot points that happened, and I don't want to be missing any of those, or bore yourself in a giant long video that I'm not sure you guys even have time to watch the entire thing. The 3 videos that will be separated will include Part 1 and Part 2 of Inanimate Insanity 2 Episode 11, and a separate analysis on the song Afterlife in the Limelight, which premiered in Part 2 of Episode 11. I will link all the episodes in the description below as they become uploaded, and more in other places, so if you just want to see one part, you can click and go. I can't wait to really dive into this masterpiece of plot development and more, and I'm glad that you chose me to join with you on this journey. Now, a complete analysis on Inanimate Insanity 2, Episode 11, Part 1 of Kick the Bucket. If you haven't watched Part 1 yet, please go do so as I put a special spoiler warning, as this episode encumbers many major events that I don't want to ruin your experience with beforehand. Now, without further ado, Inanimate Insanity 2, Episode 11, Kick the Bucket, Part 1 of my analysis. Marshmallow is walking around away from the crowd with the drawing of Bo in her chair and Pet, most likely going to see her in Purgatory Mansion. She is then greeted by MEPAD, who was on guard duty for anyone crossing the competition territory. Now take note of what MEPAD says after first seeing Marshmallow.
I simply don't feel much in general.
We will go back to that later, but keep in mind how MEPAD acts in the other II2 episodes. Calm and subtle, with a trace of nothingness. Now compare that to other Meeple products like MePhone 4 and 4S. Both had their own emotions of excitement and sadness. Look, even 4S shed a tear in the last episode of the first season before downgrade. Could this lead for something else from MEPAD? Side topic aside, Marsha attempts to talk her way out of the situation and lastly runs after one last confrontation from MEPAD, who concludes that the situation is desperate. Moving on to Purgatory Mansion, there is a different color scheme than last time in Episode 6, where the rooms are based on purples and more bright tones. We get to see more interactions with Doe this time around, which is great considering he only lasted an episode. Oh hey, a painting within painting. So Bo is now present, and Marshmallow begins to talk about her feelings of guilt about Apple and what could have went wrong in Inanimate Insanity 2, Episode 6, that most people shrug off. And then you see Bo's reaction, second guessing, thinking in a blink on knowing how to respond. More on that later. MePhone forgets about there being no elimination as we get to see cute scenes of Toilet attempting to tell them that. Also, MePhone sliding on the field to announce the challenge. There's gotta be some science about that. Now, in the scene of the Alliance Circle, we see Suitcase sidetracking the situation at hand about Balloon with her back jokes. I know, I'm probably just overthinking this when I really shouldn't, but you never know. The thing that stands out to me is if she's doing that on purpose, or can get lost in thought. As Nickel states Balloon's appearance as a hinge to the Alliance, Baseball drags Nickel to another conversation about the relationship of Balloon and Suitcase. However, when Nickel finally gives Suitcase a choice, most of us as watchers know that this is a form of dramatic irony. Because we know Nickel never really wanted to give Suitcase a role anyway, and felt like keeping her in for numbers. Look at the way Baseball acts in this part of Suitcase's and Balloon's role in the challenge. Just a bystander. Does that mean Baseball attempts to care for Suitcase but really is just there to observe and go by Nickel's lead? Well, look back at Episode 9, the dog scene at the beginning of the episode. Baseball claims that he didn't want Suitcase to feel uncomfortable about stealing the battery. Yet, did Baseball do anything about it? Going back in time in episode before, Theft and Battery, as Nickel continues to give Suitcase reasons to go. What does Baseball do in this situation? Make faces at Nickel and stay silent? Baseball's purpose in the Alliance is to keep it together, but it's also losing control of it as the power begins to shift a bit from him and Nickel. Moving on, as Taco states the challenge's spotlight is set to Balloon, as he attempts to prove his worth, and Microphone is going to take that to her advantage to sabotage Balloon and have him out in any way possible. Then, Suitcase states to Balloon
You're gonna win this for yourself.
This statement is a little contradictory because he never really competed this season for himself. Yeah, sounds all over the place because he wants redemption from the first season and how he acted. But yet, he competes for Suitcase at the same time because he stands up for her against Nickel, and in a way, they both lead each other, which is why their friendship is really strong. Now, Taka wants Microphone to go for a more direct approach as she gives her a taser to use. Yet, Microphone still keeps her ethics in check and drops it. As shown, Mike wants to go for a more subtle approach in the game to get the target off her back from the previous episode. Her choice of word begins to intimidate Balloon and mess with his mind, giving the feeling of sympathy towards Balloon as he struggles to get his mind together before the challenge begins. And then Fran goes insane with a different formula of disqualification for Marshmallow she doesn't get back in the next episode, lol. Bo, in a sense of rush and anxiety, says,
I'm all that you need, right?
This part will be more delved on in the Afterlife in the Limelight analysis. Once Marshmallow caught Bo lying, Bo was able to choke out that she possessed Apple in episode 6 to say all those rude things to Marsha and begins to ask for forgiveness. Now, side tangent. For those who were caught in surprise, this was explained in part 2 what really happened.
Possible!
Best line in the episode. Moving on. Paintbrush expresses his or her anger about Lightbulb's nonsense and has another argument with Fan. Both express their will to compete to win, but have their own expectations. Balloon trips and drops the bucket, and Nickel forces the Suitcase to grab it, but his more sarcastic tone yet ever again. Now, this underwater scene is such a big symbol for Suitcase, and it's one of my favorite scenes of the episode, and I'm here to investigate it and dive down to see what symbols it could be hiding. The ominous voiceover was such a beautiful part of the episode because it really set the mood of the scene, as this represents Suitcase's state of mind. Stuck and underwater, attempting to swim back to the top, but can't hear her own confidence and instead shadowed by the voices of Nickel, Mikintosh, and other characters that said something that left Suitcase with an impact. Then, the black tentacles come out and wrap around Suitcase. These represent her own ethics, bringing her down and trapping her. Now, Suitcase is a person who follows her own peers, and is more of a person being motivated than a motivator. Both will shoot out and grab all her limbs, which symbolize more voices that gave something to Suitcase to think about. As she almost quote-unquote surrenders, she sees a vision of a black figure that could symbolize one of two contestants, Nickel or Balloon. I know your first reaction is, how can it be Balloon? There aren't any arms! Eee! Well, first of all, Balloon can have his arms wrapped around his body, or in any other way that there aren't any silhouettes of them shown. Next, take a look at how Suitcase reacts right before this flash. Her eyes began to shimmer with emotion of something. But what? However, Nickel was right in front of Suitcase when he stood at the edge of the dock, waiting for the bucket. But could Suitcase be trying to look for Balloon yet Nickel blocks her sight of him? It could be a possibility. Lastly, the final line of the episode.
Never better.
This comes to show how much Suitcase is done being the pawn of the alliance and is tempting to find herself to stand up against Nickel.